Today, we are going to break down the one process that literally builds every great company out there: hiring. It really is a journey, and like any good story, it all kicks off with a single critical moment.
So I want you to picture this: your absolute star performer, the one you can't imagine living without, just handed in their notice. You might feel a little bit of panic, right? But what's really happening here is the start of a quest to find the right person for a really important role. And this is exactly where our story begins.
Okay, so the very first phase of this journey is all about attraction. We call it recruitment, and the whole point is to cast a super wide net and bring in as many promising applicants as you possibly can.
Now, the wording here is absolutely key. Recruitment isn't about picking the winner just yet. Nope. Think of it more like a linking activity. It's just connecting people looking for jobs with companies that have open roles. The main goal? To build a big, diverse pool of qualified people. That's the foundation for everything that comes next.
So where do you actually find these folks? Well, a company basically has two main paths they can go down. They can look inside their own walls, promote their own employees. That's internal recruitment. Or they can look outside to the wider world, which we call external recruitment. And as you're about to see, each one of these paths has its own strategic pros and cons.
And this table just lays out those trade-offs perfectly. Promoting from within, it's awesome for morale. And hey, you already know the candidate's strengths and weaknesses. But it can also lead to stale ideas. On the other hand, hiring externally brings in fresh blood, new perspectives, maybe some skills you desperately need. But that new person is going to need more time to get up to speed, and you might tick off some internal folks who are hoping for that promotion. It's a real balancing act.
Now, to actually cast that net, companies have a ton of tools in their toolbox. You've got your classic job postings and ads, of course, but nowadays, things like internet recruiting are huge. And you know what? You can't underestimate the power of employee referrals. Think about it. A current employee isn't going to recommend someone who's going to make their life harder. It's actually a super effective way to find good people.
All right, so you've cast the net, and now you have this big pool of applicants. Awesome. But now the real challenge starts. We're shifting gears from that broad search of recruitment to the super focused process of selection. This is where the tough decisions have to be made.
This is such a critical distinction to understand. Think of it like this. Recruitment is an affirmative positive process. It's basically shouting, "Hey everyone, please apply." But selection, well, selection is what you could call a negative process. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Its job is to eliminate candidates, to carefully filter through everybody to find that single best fit. So naturally, it's a much longer, more involved journey. Yeah, this whole selection thing is almost never just one interview. It's way more common for it to be a series of stages, kind of like a gauntlet that every promising candidate has to run through to prove they're the one.
And here it is, the full roadmap. You can see it's basically a funnel with up to 7 different steps. Let's walk through each stage of this challenge, shall we?
So it all starts with the initial screening. This is a really quick first pass. Resumes that don't meet the absolute basic qualifications, like say having the right degree, get put aside. The people who make it past that first gate are then usually asked to fill out a more formal, detailed application form. This just makes sure the company gets consistent, legally sound info from every single candidate.
Okay, next up is often a preliminary interview. This is usually just a quick phone or video call, really just to screen for basic communication skills and make sure the person is still interested. After that, candidates might have to take some employment tests, and these aren't just about what you know. They can look at things like aptitude, raw ability, even personality, all to get some objective data to help make a better decision.
For anyone who's still in the running, things start to get a lot more serious now. The comprehensive interview is where you finally get to meet potential bosses or teammates to see if it's a good fit. And that's followed by a super important step, the background check. This is where the company verifies everything, calling references, confirming you actually worked where you said you worked, all that good stuff.
We are on the home stretch now. The very last step before the big decision is often a physical examination, and this is mainly just to make sure the candidate can handle the physical demands of the job, if there are any. And after all of that, the final employment decision is made. It's a go or a no-go. The quest is almost at an end.
Of course, this 7-step process we just walked through, that's the ideal. But in the real world, things are, a little messier. Managers don't get to make these decisions in the bubble. They're dealing with a bunch of real-world constraints that can really shape how this whole journey plays out.
A hiring manager is basically a professional juggler. They've got company policies to follow and a budget that puts a cap on recruiting costs and what they can offer for salary.
Sometimes, for a really specialized job, the number of qualified people out there might be tiny. And on top of all of that, they have to navigate this complex web of legal and ethical rules to make sure the entire process is fair for everyone. So after going through all those steps and dealing with all those constraints, why is getting this right so incredibly important? Because at the end of the day, a successful hire is so much more than just filling an empty box on an org chart.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? A well-run hiring process is a true win-win. The company gets a productive, happy employee who helps them succeed, and just as important, the employee finds a role where they can actually feel satisfied and hit their own career goals. It really is a powerful partnership.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. But I do want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. As technology like automation and AI continues to change the very nature of work, which part of this complex, very human journey of hiring do you think needs to change the most to keep up? It's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.